Austyn Wiles, and I am applying for the SMU's master's program in level design. And this is my video essay, and I just want to take the time to explain why I am passionate about this and why I want to become a level designer in the game industry. It all began when I've always been a huge fan of video games, and I've always been fascinated by what you can do with them in terms of challenging the player through various methods, such as introducing new challenges and also just ways of teaching the player how to play the game, and doing this in ways that doesn't involve regular dialogue or tutorial boxes. I'm always keen on the fact that let the gameplay tell the player what the creators want to tell. And I also believe this when it comes to video game and storytelling, where in which I think it's just as important, like to have good dialogue and good directing and such. It's also good to make sure that the environment does tell the story, whether or not if you're making a horror game, make sure the atmosphere is right. Or if you're going for more of a philosophical or story driven game, make sure you put a lot of time and effort into the environment. And I would say my biggest hurdle when it comes to in terms of like making my level designs and philosophies is the fact that I do have a good understanding of it through just playing a lot of games and like picking up on how they do what games do and don't do a good job at teaching players. But then actually putting that into practice when making my own projects, you realize how much work goes into that, both in terms of visuals, wherein what you gotta make sure there's not any bugs or glitches with the textures, and then also when it comes to actually playing the demo, because when like you test it out, you might think everything works good, but you're one pixel off, and suddenly it's an unfinishable level. And for present what I've done, my knowledge on this, I'm going to show segments from my capstone project being the game Outer Evil. I'm turning this in for my assignment too. This was all done in Unreal Engine 4 using assets from that were offered by Sketchfab and the Unreal Marketplace for free. My goal with this was to create a level that emphasized on teaching the player the basic controls of the game while also setting up a story and narrative beats that would be foreshadowed in the final product. This is just sort of a beta and placeholder stuff, but one of the things, the game first begins with you escaping from this test pod. This right here is meant to represent that. And with no other options, you're forced to go right. This is just to like encourage the player to move on. And then once that happens, there will be this little like walkway area where in which they'll fall down. And then this little animation I made in the background was made by myself, and I kind of emphasize that this is more of a tutorial area. And you can see that this is basically where I teach the player the main movement techniques. I found that by playing through a lot of tutorials and games, I found the best ones are the ones that really force the player to actually have to use the game's techniques that they want to teach you. So in this case specifically, I'll go back really quick. This lock forces the player to jump. This one forces them to double jump, etc. I then introduce them to combat. It's not functional in this version, but it just gets the idea across. And then one other thing about the story beats is like once you progress back, at the level you can jump over this pit and you can access this hidden room. I do this a lot with this demo to where in which I have little hidden details that might not seem important, but in the final game, like these 3 monitors are all the main characters that would be in the main game. They're just, for the purposes of this, they're just beta drawings, but again, they get the idea across. And they're meant to tease the characters you would meet later on in the game. So, with that said, that is a rough idea of my project.